America and those listening around the world. It's time for the Conservative Syndicate with your host, John Matthews, self-ordained, politically incorrect, mad prophet of the airways. The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most knowledgeable activists and pundits today that together seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement with those seeking the truth regarding the similarities and differences between the religion of politics and the politics of religion.
We have put in place the toughest ethics laws and toughest transparency rules of any administration in history.
Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever.
Did you mislead Americans about taxes, about keeping your plan, in order to get the bill passed?
No, I did not. Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is. For some reason, people keep on being surprised when I do what I said I was going to do. I'm doing it because I said I was going to do it, and I think it's the right thing to do.
We are 5 years away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
And now, your host, John Matthews.
Hey, how are we doing out there tonight all across this great land of ours and around the world? It is that time. It's time for the Conservative Syndicate here, coming to you live right now out here from the old left coast out here in Southern California. We're glad that you took the time to join in tonight, and I hope you enjoy the show. We got a good show for you tonight, I believe. And we're going to just keep doing what we do on this show, and that is espousing the conservative gospel and exposing the lameness of the leftist agenda. So, yeah, we got some good stuff for you tonight. We're going to have, in just after the first break here, we're going to have KrisAnne Hall from Liberty First on with us tonight. She's been with us before. We're going to have her back tonight, and we're going to be able to talk a little bit about the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. The deals with Constitutional Convention. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to talk about that from a couple of different perspectives. And then in the second hour, Ron Edwards will be coming on from the Edwards Notebook, and we're going to talk a little bit about free speech tonight. As you all know, in the words of our illustrious First Lady Michelle Obama, all this over an effing flag. Right? You remember that? Or damn flag. I think it was all this over a damn flag. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that tonight, but on a wider scale. We're not just talking about the flag, because I'm trying to get something out here. I started with it last night, and I want to continue with it tonight as to how this new and improved campaign of Barack Obama is shaping up in terms of trying to take over guns. He downplays it. Oh, yeah, everybody thinks, well, we want to come and get their guns. Well, yeah, that's exactly what we think. So we're going to talk about that tonight with Ron Edwards in the second hour. Edwards Notebook, and then KrisAnne Hall, like I said in the first. But without having said that, let me get into the formalities here. Bring on my co-host, Joe Hakos from Dryer Report. How are you doing tonight, Joe?
Oh, hey, Mad Prophet. I am doing okay today. It's a wonderful Tuesday. I'm glad here. Day number 2 for us here this week on the Conservative Syndicate. So, yeah, KrisAnne's going to be fun, and then we'll have Ron. It's going to be just awesome topics tonight. It's going to be more of the same. Hopefully we can get beyond this just the inane stupidity that's you're going to find out on the media. It's like, I swear it's like cotton candy. It'll just rot your brain from the inside.
Yeah, but it is so. Don't you believe it, or don't you agree that what's happened here? These people, these progressives, these liberals, elitists, whatever you want to call them, whatever brand you like to call them. I listen to people calling them libtards and everything else. Let's just keep it to what it is. These are leftists, okay? These are people that just believe that big government is the answer to everything. And even in spite of all the historic facts that we have out there, that big government never wins, never does what it says it's going to do, and whatever it does bad.
Very badly.
People just continue to grab into that utopian, let's all jump on our unicorn thing, And,
well, that was one of the things last night you kind of brought up. You talked about equality. You talked about the civil rights movement being about equality. Well, and you wonder why we're still doing what we're doing with this. Why it still hasn't worked? Because, John, it's not about equality. It's about fairness, and you can never ever define fairness, because to be fair to one person is being unfair to another. That's why it'll never ever stop.
Well, that's right. What we have in the big picture, what we see here is we see the left in this constant campaign of redefining what our founding fathers meant when they penned these words, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And what they've done is they've redefined it to mean life is, comfort. Liberty is being able to do whatever you want to do and having laws to protect you doing it. And, of course, the pursuit of happiness means you're guaranteed to obtain whatever it is you want. And, I mean, if you really kind of put those three thoughts together within the framework of a liberal mindset, what it is you're saying our founding fathers said we should have licensed anarchy. Let's just everybody do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it, with whomever they want to do it. And that's, and their right to do that, it should be allowed. It should be legal. It should be legislated. It should, and if you oppose any of that, then you're a hater. You're unpatriotic. You're all these other things, and it's just, and it's not. I really believe that it's not so much because the people in power, the people behind these movements and agendas, I don't believe it's because they really are seeking any type of utopian society across the board. What they're doing is they're trying to create their version of utopia, which is I tell everybody else what to do.
Well, it's called power.
Yeah,
it's exactly that. It's called I control this. It's my power. I gain benefit and wealth out of it through my power over you, and I'm going to tell you how good it is and how great it is and how much you like it.
Yeah, and it always seems to be, when you really dig down to the root of it, when at the times I have sat at a table with liberals, is that there's always some air or atmosphere that they have been cheated out of something not of their own doing. You listen to some kid coming out of college who has nothing really, no history of anything other than going to school, and is already feeling like he's been cheated. It's like, well, I went to college. I've got a degree. I should be entitled to something. I should step out of college, and I should have a $100,000 a year job, and and I should have my BMW, and I should be able to drive down to Cancun whenever I feel like it, that kind of stuff. No concept of the fact that all you really learn in college, if you're learning anything, I don't even know if they're learning anything other than social engineering these days, but school, when I was in college, it was all about theory. You go in and you learn a theory about how things operate or how they're supposed to work. Then you get out and apply. Yeah. And you find that a lot of the theory is irrelevant once you get out and start applying it. So you have to actually work. It's not just go out there and, operate the template and everything just falls into place. But that's what they expect today. And that's because it's the easiest way to convince people to follow you. Tell them anything they want to know. Tell them what they want to hear and tell them you're the guy or girl that can do it. And in this day and age, hey, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll jump on.
Well, I think that the problem is they're not shown how to think.
No,
they're told what to think instead of learn what to think for themselves and how to, rationally think out these problements.
Well, Sunday I went to a barbecue. Some friends of ours got together and asked us to come over, and I went over there for a while. And I like going over there because it's the time I get to see my nieces. A lot of my nieces I don't see until we have some type of family gathering. 3 of them were there from one graduated from college about 5 years ago. One is in her third year of college, and the other one just got out of high school, and she's trying to figure out what college she wants to go to. So I kind of separate myself from the adults because all they want to talk about is playing cards and things like that. But I get it with these people, and I start talking to them, what are you doing? How's this going? This, that, and the other. And one of them had graduated out of Cal State Fullerton out here with a law degree, but she decided not to become a lawyer. And I said, why? She goes, because the business sucks. The people suck. Everything sucks about it, So she went into advertising, and she does some product marketing, development and stuff like that. She loves doing it. And I said, okay, fine. The other one wants to go into healthcare. And the 18-year-old that just got out of college, she's kind of trying to figure out what she wants to do. But the point, what they wanted to talk about more than anything was student loans. The one girl who's in her third year, she wants to transfer to a 4-year university, and she's got on her list Azusa Pacific as her primary, college that she wants to go to. So I asked her dad, I said, well, I know that's kind of an expensive school. It's a private college. And he said, yeah, but we don't qualify for a grant or anything, so I have to pay for it. And I said, why? He goes, I make too much money, so I can't get her, we can't get her a scholarship, and we can't get a grant or anything because we make too much money. So I can't pay for that, so she's going to have to pick another college. And then Kim, the one who graduated, came out and told me, she said, well, you know what I did? I went to junior college for 2 years, and she said the reason why, and I graduated, and then I went to a 2-year college at Cal State Fullerton, got out, got my degree, and I was able to do it and work at the same time, and I owe nobody nothing. She goes, and she says, all my friends who got loans and everything, they're all now, $100,000 or more in the hole, and they're not able to, pay it off, and because they can't find the work. And I'm like, well, this is textbook. This is just what we talk about all the time. I said, you just identified everything that we talk about in terms of what is bad with the government subsidizing education. She goes, yeah, people made fun of me when I went to college, but she said, I saw what was going on. She said at the time her father had just passed away. He died in an accident. And so it was just her and her mom. She goes, I didn't want to strap my mom with that debt. And I didn't want her worrying about whether we were going to be able to pay for it or not. So I went to work, and I did my college while I was working, and I was able to pay for it on my own. And I'm like, now, there you go. That's the game. That's how you're supposed to play it, And so I was pretty impressed with this young lady, being able to see that at 18 years old, being able to see, that the loan thing is not the way to go. And she says, so now I have my job. I'm making 6 figures. Doing marketing, development, and everything else. And, I got my car. I've got money. I have a good time. I'm thinking, see, you figured it out, people don't figure this stuff out,
Well, and when did this occur? This all started with Obamacare. That's when the feds took over the student loan program.
Yeah.
And you notice that, the tuitions aren't going down. They're only going up.
Oh yeah. But we even discussed this thing about the government saying, well, if you go to work for the state, well, we'll dismiss your loan. I said, yeah, there you go. Now they got you completely. What are you going to bite the hand that feeds you? That's the whole thing. So, and they're all Asian, they're all Filipinos. And so they're, in that culture, I'm being honest here because I live around it. In that culture, they don't really talk about politics too much, because the politics that they've grown up on and been around is all exactly what the Philippines is, a microcosm of what the United States is becoming.
Yeah, you get shot for talking about it there.
Yeah, it's corrupt, and it's not a good scenario. So they don't really like to talk about it. My wife has a phrase. She said, you talk about politics in the Philippines, you're only one bullet, So
exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, well, and that's true. I mean, that's really true. There's at least 2-3 times a month some elected official over there. It might be a governor, it might be a mayor, it might be some council, a barangay captain, what they call a barangay captain. is found in his car somewhere with his head blown off, because somebody didn't like what he did or said.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it was from behind. Yeah. So it was a suicide.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Suicide from a bullet in the back of the head. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds familiar.
Well, a couple of months ago, they even had they had a rather semi-famous stock car driver over there. And I guess he beat somebody in a race, and they didn't like it, so he's out loading his car up in his trailer. Somebody walks up and blows his head off.
Oh, there you go.
It's like, okay, I wonder what would happen if we did that out here in NASCAR, Well, I know what we do. We'd fly the Confederate flag and call everybody a racist.
Yeah. Ding, ding.
There you go. So anyway, okay, we're going to go to a commercial. When we come back, we will have KrisAnne Hall with us to discuss a couple things here, but primarily we're going to talk about the Fifth Amendment here.
No, not the Fifth Amendment, John. Article 5.
Huh?
Article 5.
I'm sorry, Article 5. I've digested too much today. I've digested too much news today. I've been soaking stuff in like crazy all day, and I'm spitting it out kind of half-assed, if I can say that. But we're going to go to a break here. When we come back, we'll have KrisAnne Hall with us, and she'll straighten it all out for me, I know. We've had her on before. She's a great gal. We'll be right back, guys. Don't go away. Stay with us right here on the Conservative Syndicate. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Okay, hey, we're back right here on the Conservative Syndicate. I am your host, John Matthews, man, prophet of the airways, on a mission from God, and that mission is to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We do that by espousing the conservative gospel and exposing the lameness of the leftist agenda. And I have Joe Hakos, my co-host from Dryer Report, and we have with us KrisAnne Hall, host of the KrisAnne Hall Show, and she does a really bang-up job going around the country teaching about our Constitution and about our liberty, the roots of our liberty, the foundation on which everything was designed and created in this great republic we call the United States of America. And we had Chris on, I guess, maybe, I don't know, a couple months ago. It seems like a couple months ago. And we wanted to get her back here because there is there's talk out there going on about putting together a constitutional convention for the purpose of, in the words of some of the people that want it, tightening up the amendments and the articles and everything in our Constitution to keep the government from overreaching. I don't know if it's a little bit too late, too little, too late. I don't know, but it's worthy. It's a worthy debate, I think, to talk about. How are you doing today, Kris?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on the show.
Great. It's glad. We're really glad to have you back. And I guess I should refer to you as KrisAnne, right?
Yeah, that's fine. My husband's name is Chris, so it just cuts out on the confusion.
Yeah. Well, I get it. Okay. All right. Well, we'll call you KrisAnne because that's your name. KrisAnne, I wanted to ask you before we get into the actual debate here. I was looking at your bio. And when you first came on, the first time you came on, I read all your stuff. And as I was thinking today, kind of putting in my head what we wanted to cover, I remembered a couple things about you. And I went back to your website just to verify this. I understand that you got your degree at the University of Florida, Frederick G. Levin College. Is that right?
That's right. That's my law degree. My undergraduate degree is in biochemistry, and I got that in Illinois at Blackburn College.
Okay. Is that Levin any relation to Mark Levin?
I don't think so.
It's just I caught the name and I went, wow, does Mark Levin have a college? Then I went and looked it up.
No, that's not Mark Levin. I have no idea. I don't think there's any relationship there. There might be somewhere down that family tree, but I don't know that there's any connection. Okay.
I was just curious, but it says here that you worked in a law firm defending religious liberty and First Amendment rights. And so I wanted to ask you real quick. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it because we got more important things to talk about. But in light of everything that's going on here, especially the idea now that I guess flying a Confederate flag is a surefire sign that you're a racist now, I'm kind of curious with Governor Nikki Haley out there in South Carolina saying they want to pull the Confederate flag off of the Capitol grounds. I understand it's not flying at the Capitol, but it's on the grounds there somewhere. And I think it's around a tomb or something for Confederate soldiers. It's like a memorial or something. And they want to pull this flag off. And my contention was yesterday, we talked briefly about it yesterday, and I just simply said this. I said, I can understand maybe somebody in a position of authority saying, it's being construed as a racist symbol. A lot of people that are using it that are racist or use it and this, that. And I can say, okay, as a government entity, let's kind of like not play around with it. Let's pull it down and, whatever. But we know that when government does this kind of stuff, it begins to extend out there. And so I could see somebody at NASCAR being told to take off their T-shirt, or somebody who has a bumper sticker or something like that, and now we're going to start being dictated to as not being able to express pride, if that's what you call it, or for whatever reason you want to display something like this, and that would be a violation. We'd be getting into the First Amendment issue. I was just curious what you're seeing out there on this.
Well, I suppose if we live in a country where guns kill people, I suppose it's not hard to believe that flags make people hate. But it makes me want to ask this question. Does destroying every symbol that offends someone remove the hate that's in men's hearts? I mean, surely it does not. But there is a greater danger than flying the Confederate flag, because hate does not exist in objects. Guns don't kill people and flags don't hate. But a government can disarm the people, and the government can condemn symbols, and both are mechanisms that are used throughout history towards enslaving the people. And a government that can tell you what you can and cannot fly will soon determine what is good, what is bad, what is acceptable, and what is permissible. Once we get there, free thought is dead, wisdom is dead, liberty is dead in society. The only hope that we have is knowing that the government didn't give us liberty, so they can't take it away. And I think the best thing that I can say about this is not my own words. It's something that Benjamin Franklin said through Silence Dogood in 1722. He said, "Without freedom of thought, there can be no such thing as wisdom, and no such thing as public liberty without freedom of speech, which is the right of every man as far as by it he does not hurt or control the right or another. This is the only check it ought to suffer, and the only bounds it ought to know. Franklin says the sacred privilege is so essential to the free government that the security of the property and the freedom of speech always go together. And in those wretched countries where man cannot call his tongue his own, he can scarce call anything else his own. And we have forgotten in America how closely related our freedom of speech is with our right to property and with every other liberty that we have. It really is no mystery, or should be no mystery, why the First Amendment is first, and that the First Amendment is first on purpose. In America, we love guns, right? So we like to say things like, they'll get my guns when they take it from my cold dead hand. But I know history, and I know that that's exactly how it will happen. Because by the time they come for America's guns, they will have already taken every other liberty, and there will be no way to fight, and so they will take them from our cold dead hands. And so this First Amendment issue is a really, really big issue, and we cannot allow the government to determine what is good, what is bad, what is right, and what is wrong.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. My view has always been pretty simple. If you're offended by something like the Confederate flag, or if you're offended by the guy down the street who runs a store who is a bigot and a racist, well, you just don't hang out with those people. You don't do business with them. I've always thought the most practical way of dealing with things like racism is, hey, if we got a bigot down here, don't anybody do business with him. He's got to do one or two things. He's either got to change his attitude or close up. But why do we need the government to come in and say, well, you have to cater to this, or you have to do this? Communities can affect change in their community without the government stepping in, just if they just all say, hey, let's not go there. Let's not do it. The same thing with a flag. Hey, this guy hangs a flag in the back of his bar. I don't like it. Okay, well, then don't go to that bar. Why don't you go down the street to the one that's got the...
That's how liberty is supposed to work, and that's how a liberty-minded society works. That you have liberty until your liberty steals it from someone else. But with that liberty comes great responsibility, because freedom and liberty are not the same thing.
Right.
Liberty is freedom plus morality. The realization that we are free to do whatever we choose, however we choose, but the understanding that some things are wrong for us to do. And so what we have to do in a free society, a liberty-minded society, is a self-governing society. And so what we have to do is actually self-govern. And so when we become so immoral that we are incapable or unwilling of self-governing, then the government comes in and takes over. And the more power government has, the less liberty we have.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I just wanted to get your opinion here on that. I like it. I like it. I want to move on, because that's what we brought you on the show for something else here. I saw this little thing about you being a First Amendment lawyer, and I said, I'd just throw this at her. Very good. You handled it well. I like, as Jill said, yeah, she's quick on her feet. She'll be able to deal with it. Okay. Now, this deal with the Article 5, and I want to refer to Mark Levin, who happens to be, I guess for lack of a better phrase, this guy is like my idol. I love this guy. I like everything he does. I like the way he does it. I always tell people when I grow up, that's what I want to be. I want to be like Mark Levin. And we know that Levin had a lot of time in the Department of Justice. He was the chief of staff during the Reagan administration, and he does a knock-up, bang-up job in his books and everything. And he has been kind of pushing here, I know, for several months now, if not a year or so, about the need for a constitutional convention to put, as he calls, renew the limits on federal power that the framers intended in the original Constitution, meaning that government today has lost sight of what the forefathers intended when they penned the Constitution, and basically limited federal government in a very rather ambiguous way, but one I would assume at that time was very well understood. Today it's not. And he's calling for some amendments. like term limits, 12-year term limit in Congress, returning the U.S. senators to state legislatures instead of elections. That's something I've always wanted to see. Requiring a balanced budget, limiting federal spending to 17.5% of GDP, limiting taxation to 15%, things like this. He's saying we've got to do something here to rein this government in and remind them that everything they're stepping into is supposed to be done at the state level rather than the federal government level. And I wanted to just kind of get your opinion here as to, do you think something like this is necessary? Or do you think that there's another way of doing it? Should we not do anything in regards to trying to rein in the government other than voting or whatever? And I want to give you a moment to think about that. We got to go to commercial. When we come back, we'll get that. We'll start on that, in that dialogue there. We've got KrisAnne Hall from the KrisAnne Hall Show and Liberty First. So we'll be right back, guys. Just stay with us right here in the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is Joe Hakos here at Conservative Syndicate with KrisAnne Hall and John Matthews. KrisAnne, thanks for being here again tonight.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Hey, just wanted to ask you, I wanted to ask you about the Article 5. Even John got confused. Everybody, I think folks get confused with the Fifth Amendment in Article 5. So, exactly. And it's like, I don't know what they're teaching in school anymore. But anyway, Article 5, that deals with the amendment process, correct?
Yeah, Article 5 says that Congress, whenever two-thirds of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution, or on the application of the legislature of two-thirds of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments. And then it goes on to say that the Congress will then propose the means for ratifying these amendments. And so it is a mechanism that our framers put in place to create amendments to the Constitution. Now, the interesting thing is, even though I've never taken a stance in opposition to this obviously constitutionally authorized remedy, I've been personally attacked and ridiculed for pointing out that there are things that we have to consider, some inherent dangers that are take place, and some measures that we have to prepare for them. This is not just the cure-all. Many act as if a convention is a panacea to our current constitutional crisis, and consider that if we look at the difficulties, that, viewing the difficulties as foolish, I've even had people say, well, we've got to do something, so why don't we do this? But what we fail to recognize is that a convention that can amend the Constitution is like heart surgery. And so would you personally go into open heart surgery without knowing all the risks and all the dangers and taking all the precautions necessary to make sure that the surgery was as successful as possible? And frankly, who am I? Who am I, Joe? I mean, I am nobody. My name is not James Madison or George Mason. My opinion on an Article 5 convention should be completely irrelevant to the people of America. And I don't mean this in any disrespect to Mark Levin, but as far as I'm concerned, his opinion on Article 5 is also irrelevant. The only thing that I think should be considered in these situations is, what did our framers say about it? And what are the parties who are going to be in control of an Article 5 say about this?
Yeah, so...
George Mason... Go ahead.
Exactly. So if you had an Article 5 convention to do this, who exactly would be proposing these amendments to our Constitution then?
The interesting thing is that's the exact same concern that Patrick Henry said. That James Madison said. James Madison, George Mason, Edmund Randolph, Elbridge Gerry, just to name a few, were very concerned about this Article 5 process because they were concerned about several things that we should be taking note of. Chief of which, number one, is who are the delegates? Yep. And the second thing is, what happens if we are dealing with a tyrannical Congress who wants to control and take over the convention process? Mm-hmm. And so these are the really big concerns. James Madison discusses his concerns about who are the delegates in Federalist Papers 49. And just simply to paraphrase what Madison says in 49, he says simply, the only reason, everybody knows the only reason we've been able to have a successful convention this time around is because we have just come through a bloody, horrible revolution. And the horrors that we saw have made the delegates to this convention focus on one single issue, and that one single issue is liberty. He said it has provided us with the proper motivation to turn away all our own personal greed, our own ambitions, our political gain, and focus on liberty alone. And he says, the thing that I fear the most is that without that motivation in the future, the delegates would not be so limited to liberty, but would be more motivated on their own personal gain, their avarice, their political ambitions, yep. And we would end up asking the same people who created the problem to fix the problem.
Absolutely. That was one of the questions. What are some of the pitfalls of this? So we would need 34 states to recommend an amendment to the Constitution. Is that, if I got my math right?
Yeah, it takes 3/4 of the states to ratify. And so before we could ever have an amendment, then we have to get through the whole process, which is complicated in itself because of the way Congress thinks an Article 5 convention will work. Many people, here's a distinction that we need to make, Joe. The problem is that some people are trying to make a distinction between a convention of the states and an Article 5 convention. Okay. A convention of the states is something that people say, well, this is just something that the states do, that Congress isn't even involved in. We don't even have to consider Congress. The problem is when the states agreed to ratify the Constitution, they created a legally binding contract.
Yes.
And according to that contract, there are specific and limited mechanisms to altering the Constitution. The specific and deliberate mechanisms for altering the Constitution are contained within Article 5. So if you're discussing a convention of the states that does not follow the contractual agreement on how to amend the Constitution, then what you're proposing is that the states can be just as unconstitutional as Congress and can amend the Constitution outside the provisions of the Constitution, which should not be allowed.
No.
But you see, Article 5 Convention says that Congress is an intimate part of this role. And one of the things that we really, really need to consider in this is, what does Congress think an Article 5 Convention will look like? And the interesting thing is, they've been studying this since before the 1950s. And they've been having congressional hearings on Article 5. They've called in their experts. They've had legal advice. And they've published documents as to what they think their power will be. And it is absolutely, frankly, I say it's stunning, but it should be alarming what Congress is going to do if an Article 5 Convention is ever called.
I don't think we could feel like we could trust these folks. Congress has relinquished their powers and given so much to the executive. Now the separation of powers is a definite issue. My concern is just why exactly are we going to try to hold a convention to amend our Constitution anyway? What exactly are we going to be trying to do? That's the reason why we have the 10th Amendment, because if we just put every grievance we have against the government and we should have an amendment for whatever, it'd be so huge. We'd have a 6,000 page document. And so, what are we going to do with an amendment? I mean, just exactly what amendments are we going to be proposing for our Constitution? You start messing around with the foundations of our Constitution, and we get things like the 16th and 17th Amendment. We can go ahead and tax you whenever it is, and then we can go ahead and appoint our senators to popular vote, which is explicitly against what framers wanted.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is, the reason that I am opposed to the majority of the amendments offered through, this popular movement is that they deal with symptoms instead of the disease. The disease, the term limits, balanced budget, all of these things are symptoms of the problem and not addressing the disease in and of itself. The disease is the fact that, number one, we have become fundamentally ignorant in America as to the proper role of the federal government and the limited nature in which they are created. If we understood that, we wouldn't be discussing a term limits amendment. Our framers had a specific reason why these term limit things were not imposed. And term limits don't solve a problem. They create a whole new one. Yes. As a matter of fact, history has proven, specifically with the ratification of the 17th Amendment, that setting up terms for elected people does not save our liberty and preserve the republic. It actually creates a more detached mentality from the people and makes us less politically involved. We don't need a balanced budget amendment. The federal government is already required by law to have a balanced budget. That is the symptom of the problem. The real problem is the fact that Congress has become completely negligent to their duty to be limited in their power. We don't need a balanced budget amendment. We need a Congress that recognizes that the EPA, the FDA, the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the Department of Interior, the Bureau of Land Management, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, all of these and many more executive agencies are completely unconstitutional. And if we would dissolve all these unconstitutional agencies, we would be operating with such an amazing surplus, America, that we wouldn't even know what to do with ourselves. And so, if we're going to have a constitutional convention, an Article 5 convention, the only amendment that I, as someone who believes in the integrity of the Constitution, who believes in the purpose and the intent of our framers, would ever endorse is an amendment that establishes the definition of the General Welfare Clause, the Tax and Spending Clause, the Commerce Clause, and the Necessary and Proper Clauses, all under the definition that Madison himself gave over the years between 1787 and 1792.
Instead of the redefined words they use today.
That's right. And here's the whole problem. You brought up this concern, which should be an absolute concern of us. And actually was the concern of Madison, as we put forward. Who are the delegates? Do you think that we're going to choose delegates based on their constitutional knowledge and aptitude to understanding the framers' intent? There are only two mechanisms. Yeah, there are only two mechanisms to declare a delegate. One, the state legislators choose them, or the people choose them through popular vote.
Yeah.
If the state legislators are going to choose, it's going to be a political battle, right?
Yeah, exactly. We see what that's going to do. Yeah. Hey, KrisAnne, I think we have to be going to a break. So I think John has some historical context, and it kind of comes down to this political debate thing again. And I think we touched on it a little bit. So we're going to be right back in just a few minutes. We got to go pay some bills. So this is Joe Hakos, John Matthews, and KrisAnne Hall here on the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back after the break.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Hey, we are back right here on the Conservative Syndicate, and I am your host, John Matthews, with my co-host, Joe Hakos, and we have with us KrisAnne Hall from the KrisAnne Hall Show and Liberty First. KrisAnne, I hope you don't mind us bouncing you around here a little bit like a ping pong ball between us, but Joe and I have different things that we want to ask you about in regard to the Article 5 issue here. And as you were talking before the break, you had mentioned the fact that, if I heard you right, that really the way our founding fathers set up and penned the Constitution is that there was kind of a, for lack of a better phrase, I'll just say an honor system between them. We won't run for more than 2 terms in office. We'll return. Everybody seemed to understand pretty much that the federal government wasn't supposed to be overstepping into state business and vice versa. And I just wanted to play the devil's advocate for a minute and just ask you, isn't that really the argument that the left offers today about the Constitution being a living and breathing document, is that things have changed? Maybe back in the day, that's the way it was, but that's not the way it is today. And that is, I think, kind of spurred this conversation about whether or not we actually have to go in and be a little bit more definitive as to the separations of power, which is the other part of the question, is that with the corruption of the separation of power, which seems to be the big issue, be the driver behind this thought that we need to do something about it. And you're saying, yeah, we're going to ask the very people that broke it to fix it. I totally get that. But how do we fix it? And do you see, is there anything to support the left's argument that the Constitution is outdated?
No, absolutely not. The problem is not that the Constitution is outdated. The problem is that our education is inadequate. We have failed to teach for generations the fact that our Constitution is not an invention of our framers. There is absolutely nothing new, nothing novel in our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, or our Bill of Rights. They didn't sit down one day and make this stuff up. As a matter of fact, everything within our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and our Declaration of Independence can be traced to 700 years of history and 5 documents that our framers called the Liberty Charters. This is part of what I teach when I travel the country. I teach what I call the genealogy of the Constitution. And once we see the foundation of where our Constitution came from and these provisions, we learn that it's not something like a statute book that changes over years. It's a document of time-tested, blood-bought principles. And nothing has changed. This is not a brave new world. We're not seeing new things and needing new applications. What we need is a proper understanding for these bases. Now, Article 5 was put into it because our framers anticipated the need to amend the Constitution as our awareness of liberty expanded and our need for government diminished. Jefferson talks about this, that he believed that we would have to make sure that we were able to amend the Constitution as our enlightenment increased, and that we needed more liberty and less government. And the crazy thing is that we had sort of devolved rather than enlightened, which is, kind of the natural progress of things for people who are not educated on liberty. And that's really the terrible place that we're at. Samuel Adams said that no people will tamely surrender their liberties when knowledge is diffused and victory and virtue is preserved. He said, however, when people become universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink underneath their own weight. And so that's what's happened. We have failed to teach the truth for so long, which is why I do the teaching that I do. I travel. I teach on average 265 classes in over 20 states every single year. And we're trying to lay down this historical application so we don't believe that the Constitution is a living, breathing document, but we understand it doesn't have to be because it's based on principles.
So
I want to mention something to you guys.
Along that line of thought, that where you're saying, okay, the framers intended that what would happen is over time, the individual would rise up to a place where we wouldn't need the government as much, and we would be putting amendments to instead of expanding government, perhaps limiting government more. So would you see the advantage to having a constitutional convention to repeal like the 17th Amendment, or at least modify like the 14th Amendment? Obviously, that amendment has really been stretched out of what it means to include, that's the basic argument for immigration, amnesty and stuff like that. I'm thinking more along the lines of not adding to the Constitution, but perhaps pulling a couple of these amendments out.
No, I think that would be good. But what we have to understand is that before we engage in this open heart surgery on our Constitution, we need to have some trained surgeons. Right now, we're just going down and asking some carpenters to do heart surgery because they know how to cut things. And the problem, again, is Madison's contention, who's going to be the delegate. I want to offer something to you guys. I have a book called Sovereign Duty. And it's my newest book, Sovereign Duty. I have a whole chapter on Article 5 conventions. The whole book is about the framers' solutions to getting the federal government under control, because they absolutely knew their history and they anticipated the day that we were seeing. This federal government did not take our framers by surprise. You'll remember there's an account where a lady comes up to Benjamin Franklin and says, Mr. Franklin, what kind of government did you give us? And he answers, a republic, if you can keep it.
Right.
So they knew that it would be difficult to maintain the federal government within its boundaries. So inherent in the constitutional republic, they created a system and a solution to the federal government out of control. And I just want to know, I will send you guys free a copy of my book, Sovereign Duty, if you promise me that you'll read it and let me know what you think about it.
Oh, certainly.
That would be great. That would be super.
And so basically what I've done is I've spent an entire chapter on Article 5 explaining my opinion is irrelevant. I'm just a person in this country who has read the framers, who knows what's going on. I'm just a person. What's more relevant is what did the men who wrote the constitutional contract think about all this stuff, and what are their concerns? And so I would like to put those concerns in your hands, so that way we can address this issue together. You know, I mean, we need to have a real educated constituency, so we stop. The most painful thing I hear about an Article 5 convention is this: we have to do something, so why not this? That makes me, seriously, that makes me want to cry.
It makes me cringe.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because like you said, we are people that are just unhealthy when it comes to our Constitution. Unfit. We are so unfit, constitutionally unfit. We have not exercised our rights under the Constitution and so on, and our government has been allowed to do these things because we have let it. Hey, the first three words are exactly why the preamble are exactly why we're in this, because we, the people, have allowed it.
Yeah.
Not only that, we have forgotten our primary focus. The Constitution was not created to create government.
Yes.
The Constitution was created so that we would preserve the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity through a central government. And we've forgotten that the central government's only delegated powers were dealing with foreign affairs, and that they were required to leave the states alone to govern themselves.
Yeah, well said. Very well said. Very well. We're out of time, KrisAnne, but I got to get you back on the show more regularly. I know you're busy, but I learn so much whenever you're on the show. I was one of these kids. I was one of these people that grew up in a school that in 5th grade we had to take a test on the Constitution, and that determined whether we passed the entire year. It's like if you flunked the Constitution test, you didn't pass. It was And so. But I've forgotten a lot of this stuff. The
problem is not studying the Constitution these days. The problem is who is teaching and what is being taught. And I just want to let you guys know I will come on the show any time you want. And if I can tell people my website and just encourage them to go to the website, it's KrisAnneHall.com, KrisAnneHall.com. I have articles and training videos and radio shows that all talk about these subjects because, guys, my whole purpose is simply to educate the people on what a wonderful constitutional republic we have and the power we have within the hands of the people and their states to stop a tyrannical government from stealing our liberty.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing about the Constitution and the Declaration and the Federalist Papers, all these documents and books and writings that we talk about, once you take the time to read them and digest them and understand them, you really see the purity of all this, and it really does that's what turns you into conservative. If you don't read the stuff, you'll stay a liberal because you know nothing, you don't know what you don't know. So, I want to thank you so much for coming on. I definitely want to get you back here, and we're going to continue this education process here, just for us and our audience. I mean, I learned just a bunch of stuff tonight, just tonight. We could start out by saying I learned the difference between an amendment and an article. How about that?
Yay! Well,
all right,
you so much,
KrisAnne, you guys out there listening, you want to check her out, KrisAnneHall.com, KrisAnneHall.com, KrisAnneHall.com. Thanks so much, Chris. We'll have you back for sure.
All right, super, guys. Thanks.
Thanks, KrisAnne.
Okay. All right, take care. Okay, guys, it's that time Time for the Edwards Notebook. We're going to pull that up here, drop it in our little play machine here, and pay some bills. We'll be back. Ron Edwards should be joining us next hour from the Edwards Notebook, and I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something from it, and I hope you share it. That's even more important. Share what you've got. Don't keep it to yourself. We'll be right back right here on the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
You can always tell what a political office holder thinks about our nation based upon what decisions he or she makes. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, we all know that America is not on good terms with Muslims. Those who follow the Crescent One have threatened to destroy both Israel and the United States of America. Muslims murder Christians for sport. They rape little girls, then marry them. Muslims have been stopped just in the nick of time from blowing up Times Square and other New York City locales. Oh, and did I mention that Muslims are probably the most racist people on earth who call black people slaves and men raisin heads? So what does progressive New York City Mayor de Blasio do? He has ordered the New York Police Department to start recruiting and hiring a lot more Muslims. Currently, there are 800 Muslim uniformed officers and 20 higher-ranking police officials. The only logical conclusion I can come to is that, like President Obama in regards to America, Mayor de Blasio doesn't really care about the stability and security of New York City. Hopefully, before it's too late, voters will care more about whom they select for office. I'm Ron Edwards.
Blowing away the myths and revealing the truth. You can continue to blow away the myths with Ron Edwards on Facebook, Twitter, and theronedwards.com.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment, and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers. If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you've been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
In America and those listening around the world, it's time for The Conservative Syndicate with your host, John Matthews, self-ordained, politically incorrect, mad prophet of the airways. The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most knowledgeable activists and pundits today that together seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement with those seeking the truth regarding the similarities and differences between the religion of politics and the politics of religion.
We have put in place the toughest ethics laws and toughest transparency rules of any administration in history. In history.
Lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. And basically, call it the stupidity of the American voter or whatever.
Did you mislead Americans about taxes, about keeping your plan, in order to get the bill passed?
No, I did not. All you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is. For some reason, people keep on being surprised when I do what I said I was going to do. I'm doing it because I said I was going to do it, and I think it's the right thing to do.
We are 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America.
And now, your host, John Matthews.
Okay, hey, we are back right here on the Conservative Syndicate, Hour 2, and I hope you enjoyed that first hour.
I did.
I gathered, I got so much information on, that's what I love about this woman, KrisAnne Hall. We talked to her, about 40 minutes, and I feel like I just came out of an 8-hour seminar. I mean, just tight, just knows what to say, how to say it, gets right to the point, and makes complete sense in the way that she articulates the message here. And, if you're just tuning in with us right now, you definitely want to pick up the archive of our show tonight and listen to it. You can just go to our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, and pick it up there. If you want to listen to it on iTunes, a chance to brag here, you can click on our new link on the site. It'll take you to iTunes. You can download it that way, however you want to listen to it. I don't care how you listen to it, just as long as you do listen to it. So, take advantage of what we're giving you here. We don't charge for this stuff, We do it because we believe it's the right thing to do. So if I can cop that phrase without sounding like our president. Anyway, we have with us right now Ron Edwards from the Edwards Notebook. And Ron is coming on today at a good time because here's a gentleman that just deals with the issues of the day in terms of, I guess, what do you want to call it, racism and all the things that go on in the government in terms of marginalizing people by their color or their gender or their ideologies or even their theology. And he's out there all the time, out there in the trenches, dealing with people, talking to people about this stuff. How are you doing tonight, Ron?
I'm doing quite well, and great to be back for another shot here on your great broadcast. Great to be with you guys again.
Well, we're glad to have you. I want to kind of kick it into gear here regarding what we're seeing out here right now in light of the tragedy took place down in South Carolina last week. There's so much that could be said, and yet there's so much that shouldn't be said that is being said. We're seeing probably one of the best examples of unity that I think we've seen in eons in terms of how a community comes together and deals with something like this instead of torching the city and having their buddies Sharpton and Jackson down there shaking everybody down and sending the DOJ down there. All these things have been just kind of not happening because the community came together and said, you know what, we are together. We all live here. We're all members of this community, and it's like they're addressing the issue, and they're addressing it the right way. They're trying to heal. They're trying to reconcile. They pray together. They're asking for God's grace and healing and everything else, something that is just completely devoid of everything that we've had happen. And like I said, eons. It seems like eons since we've had an incident like this where the community has come together and dealt with it right. I wanted to get what's your initial impression on how the people in Charleston are just acting between themselves, everything else aside right now.
I was most impressed because the thing that jumped right out to me was they are acting out the type of people that I got to meet when I was on tour last year. Wonderful people. I disagree with them on some political issues, but when it came down to an issue like this, it's just wonderful how people of that beautiful city came together. And like you said, John, they didn't decide to, barbecue the place, burn it down, and they realized that, there are problems, but let's not make it a worse problem. And they're working together, and they can heal. In fact, I think this can spread across the country. I think this can galvanize more Americans coming together to solve problems in our society.
Well, that was something we were talking about towards the beginning of what was it? The end of last week, I believe. The idea that this could blow up in the face of the leftists who are out there trying to quote unquote not let another good crisis go to waste and trying to bring that conquer and divide campaign back to the surface. I understand. I wanted to ask you because I have not been able to find any documentation on it. I heard it briefly on the airways toward the end of last week that Sharpton was planning to go down there, and people pretty much stood up and said, "No, we don't want you down here." Did you see or hear anything about that?
I read something to that effect once that Mr. Windbag was going to blow down there and try to, I guess, start up trouble or whatever, and they kind of snatched the welcome mat out from under him, and to this day he hasn't showed up, and prayerfully he or neither Jesse, hey, where's the camera, Jackson, will not show up either. Unfortunately, the president's going to be there, I believe, Friday, so let's just hope that he doesn't poison the waters too much.
Well, I think Jackson had to take a sabbatical after Ferguson. I understand at Ferguson he was actually shouted down because he got up there to speak and actually started asking people for money. We hadn't heard too much from him after that for quite a while. I'm sure they're all trying to figure out, their angles. I do understand. I did find an article the other day of a pastor of another church down there who basically came out on, I believe it was the CNN, and tried to paint the Tea Party as the problem, and the Tea Party flying their Confederate flags. And we've seen this issue of a flag becoming yet more fodder here. The idea that, okay, if you're flying a Confederate flag, then obviously you're racist, and that's becoming the new byline, new tagline kind of thing. But I wanted, if I can, because I know you're one of the few people I could actually approach directly with this. Our president the other day decides he's going to use the derogatory slang term that everybody else thinks is bad. And then we had somebody, Don Lemon, came out and tried to do the same thing yesterday. Actually held up a billboard with the word on it and asked everybody if they were offended. He was on CNN, and he was in a debate with a black woman who was saying she thought it was very distasteful and unpresidential to do this. And Lemon used the words himself and said, basically, since I'm a journalist, I can use the words. And he was trying to point out, what he said was, the rule around here at CNN is if the journalist is comfortable using the words, then he should be able to use the words. And she immediately countered and said, no, that's not true. Just a couple of years ago, we had a journalist who used the words who was fired. And so I'm thinking, well, what's this guy still got a job for? If CNN fired somebody else, I guess it was because the other person that used it wasn't black. And so what I'm getting at here is it seems to me that to deliberately come out and use these words for the purpose of motivating or trying to present yourself as somebody who's really dealing with the issue, it just adds more fuel to the fire, don't you think?
Oh, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm in this area. Maybe I'm too slow, or I don't get it or something, John and Joe. Someone says the words, I understand the history and everything like that. Don't get me wrong. But I guess I keep looking at serious matters that are going on in our country, and I just, I look at the word, I hear the word, and I hear the hypocrisy, and I see the hypocrisy. On one hand, people will go to Nutsville if someone brings it up. They didn't because, well, I guess some people got upset because Obama brought it up or whatever. And yet it's okay for rap artists to use it all the time and make money at it, and calling people worse names than that word. And I just look at the hypocrisy of the whole thing. It's one of these things where people are majoring in the minors. Yes, it's a bad word. I can tell you right off the bat about 4 or 5 words that are a lot more demeaning and much worse and more impactful than that word in describing an individual. And so, it's something to me that the left continues to use, just like the Confederate flag issue itself and a few other issues, just to keep people, the dummied down, incurably ignorant masses, frothed up or whatever that the left wants to happen in this country. And I'm sorry that's not a good answer, but our country's on her deathbed, and here we are talking about this word.
Well, actually, Ron, your answer I think is very it's a very good response, because that's exactly the way the left operates. Is let's major in the minor things. Let's take the little things. That's the whole point I'm getting at here. If I can coin the phrase from our First Lady, who once commented during the funeral of a soldier, all this over a damn flag, that kind of thing. And yet, when they use something like this, or they take that as their symbolism to promote their agenda and everything else, then it's not just a damn flag. This symbolizes everything that's wrong with America, that kind of thing. And I certainly am not going to sit here and say, well, just because you fly a Confederate flag doesn't mean that you're a racist. Obviously, there are people out there that are racist, but there are also people out there that fly other flags. We out here in California, we're always dealing with this issue. We've had students in high school go out and pull down the American flag and raise the Mexican flag. We've had the UCI out here a few months ago where they wanted to pull the American flag because it offended the foreigners that were there. You know, they take these little things and they make them into big things, and then they wonder why everybody gets all irritated. But that's the whole purpose of it, is to irritate people, to get them to that point where you get that emotion churned up, and everybody starts hating everybody again. You know, that they had, this is kind of like they're countering what's going on in Charleston. These people are coming together. They're trying to work through this thing, and they got to inject something. And I find it, I'll tell you what offends me about it, is the fact that the Governor Haley would stand up and cave on this. You know, it should be, that really offends me, that once again we've got a Republican standing up there going, yeah, let's give them what they want.
Well, it comes down to when
it really gets me going. You know, not the act itself; it's the response to it. Just saying. And then in the same breath, she says, "Well, we want to stay focused on the victims." Well, you just took the focus off the victims. You know what I mean?
And also the mix-up in history. They switched the history around, blaming Tea Parties and trying to stamp it on Republicans when. As this article with Rush Limbaugh, and you know, if anyone who knows a bit of history anyway, without that, they know that the Confederate concept came via the Democrats. I mean, that's an old Democrat thing, and for them to switch it around and the Republicans not to stand up and slap that madness down. I mean, they do have history on their side, and they are not playing their card.
Yeah.
Well, because they're just lazy. it's kind of really, they're lazy about it. But you know what? Now it's this flag, right? Then what's next? You know, they're talking about statues in cemeteries. You know, busts in Capitol buildings. When does it stop? It will never stop. So
they're talking about taking Jefferson Davis out of the Louisville State House in Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, when will it stop? It will never stop.
Well, you know, we out here in California, which apparently, according to our current Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, you know, as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. One of the key things, I spent some time on the show ranting about Neil Kashkari taking the Republican primary away from Tim Donnelly. Tim Donnelly had gone out and walked the walk. He'd gone out and pounded the pavement for 2 years, 2 weeks away from the governor's election or the primary. He's double digits out in the lead. We have the rhinos come in and back up Kashkari. In 2 weeks, that lead dissipated. Now, one of the things that took place during that time, that 2 week period, was this bill that had come up in front of the California legislatures that wanted to ban the selling of the Confederate flag in government buildings. You know, like if you go up to Sacramento, and I guess there was you could buy a Confederate flag up there, whatever, I don't know what, decal, bumper sticker, I don't know, whatever it is. So they submitted this bill. We need to ban the Confederate flag on government property. And everybody in the state assembly voted for it, with the exception of Tim Donnelly. He was the sole person that voted against it. And his argument was, you shouldn't, this is a freedom of speech thing. You're telling people what they can and cannot buy. You're telling them what they can and cannot take possession of. And I just don't think that's right. That one thing hit the media out here and almost overnight destroyed this guy. Just the idea that he was just saying, hey, I'm just standing up for free speech, and he wouldn't compromise. 100 assembly members, he was the only one who voted against it. And it took him down. It was at least part of what took him down. You look out here in California in terms of this idea. You know, Joe's talking about the idea that we've got ongoing battles here about taking crosses down at veteran memorials down in San Diego. We've had crosses pulled that have been sitting out in the desert, in the freaking desert where nobody goes. And those things have been sitting out there for 50, 60 years. All of a sudden, somebody wants that thing gone. And so this whole idea of But to me, the reason it works is because the people are so dumbed down that they can grasp that. They can't grasp understanding what the Constitution means and what our freedom of speech means. It's easier just for somebody to tell them, well, it means that if you fly a Confederate flag, you're a racist. Oh, okay, I can digest that. Now let me get back to my soap operas. That's really how it works. So it is, as KrisAnne was pointing out to us in first hour, we really need, one, re-education out here as to what it means to be an American. In some cases, indoctrination. Let me use that word. We need people to be indoctrinated as to what it means to be an American instead of what it means to be a statist or a member of the collective. So, that's how I see it. Yeah, we are majoring in minor things, but that is how the battle is being won, unfortunately, because that's all it takes. Would you concur with that, Ron?
I concur with you wholeheartedly. One thing that this brings to mind is when I was in Alabama, 2 places I went, they were flying the Confederate flag, and one of them, it was a big, giant one. It was pretty. I thought it was. I just looked at it. Wow, this big, pretty flag. And a couple of people came to me and said, "Mr. Edwards, are you offended by the flag? This, that, and the other." And I said, "No, I'm not. It's just a big cloth flying in the wind. It looks kind of nice." And I did my speech, and we had a nice evening. But John, we've got to rein in this country before it totally gets out of hand. It breaks my heart the way we continue to allow the left to grab all the attention and focus the incurably ignorant masses on such idiotic issues, and which are mostly based upon lies. And it's really grating me more than what the Democrats are doing. It really grates me that the Republicans who have the truth on their side do not just stand up and say, "Wait a minute, hold the phone. This is the truth. Do not put this label on us. Do not put this label on the Tea Party folks. The truth is, you all are the originators of all this. If this is evil, it comes from you," and blah, blah, blah. But they're not doing it in mass. It's not enough of this fighting back that we need. That is how we're going to take the country back, by fighting back with the doggone truth, which we have in abundance. But the unwillingness, or as Joe says, they're lazy, and I think it's worse than that. They're just they're too cowardly, because they're afraid. Like the guy you mentioned in California, if they stand up for the truth, maybe they'll get voted out of office because the media is in bed with the liberal Democrats, the progressives, and it's in too many Republicans are they're too cowardly, and they want to hold on to their little fiefdom, as it were. I guess the position is more important than their country, and that saddens me this evening. It really does.
Yeah, I get it. It's just what I want to do here, though. I'm going to take a break here. When we come back, I want to ask you specifically, not so much about what Obama said on his interview with Mark Maron, but I'm kind of intrigued by the display put on by Don Lemon at CNN, and this idea that he just basically taunted his audience or anybody listening, and for whatever reason. I'm sure it's just for personal attention. I think at CNN they just want to, whatever it takes to get attention, that's what they'll do. But his handling of this thing, he was smug, he was arrogant in the way that he approached it, and just basically threw it out there. Just I think just to rile people up, so that maybe now he can add another notch to his belt. Not only am I black, but I'm gay, and so now you guys that don't like me, it's because I'm black and I'm gay. And what I'd like to get to at some point here is this idea that this is yet another. These are all elements to another campaign to basically try to once again disarm America, because that's what I think the focus is here. The focus is gun control. It's not racism. It's not anything else. It's another angle. They're trying to come back and justify taking guns away from Americans. But we'll deal with that when we get back here. I've got Ron Edwards from the Edwards Notebook. Now, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to play you, yesterday we have been playing normally the, what do we call it? The Moments of Madness. And I wanted to play something else. Yesterday we played a song from Tim Hawkins called The Government Can. And I found I've got some other people out here that I've been following. I don't know how many of you out there have ever heard the group, the Conservative Kooks. And they are a riot. I noticed them back in the 2008 election, shortly after Barack Obama was elected. And this group is a duo, a couple. And they created a song that was called Obamacare. And they did a parody off of one of Adele Shannon's songs. And it was about Obamacare. And it was called Voters' Remorse. These gentlemen had voted for Barack Obama for hope and change and realized that they'd made a mistake. And so they did a parody on it. And it was hilarious. And then they did another one on another version of Obamacare. But this one is called It's My Way, I'm Big Government. It's a parody on the song Friday I'm in Love by The Cure. And I wanted to play it for you in place of Moments of Madness. So stay with us right here in the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be back in just a moment.
Take out the bed away.
Okay, hey, we're back right here at the Conservative Syndicate, and I am your host, John Matthews. I hope you enjoyed that. Lighten it up a little bit here. Sometimes you get so serious and you just want to rip your hair out. Of course, that's not why I don't have any hair left, but you get the drift of what I'm saying. I am your host, John Matthews. We've got my co-host, Joe Hakos, and we've got Ron Edwards from the Edwards Notebook doing his weekly contribution or segment on our show. And, we're talking about this situation down in Charleston, the both sides of this thing. We're seeing a community, I think, is just a perfect example and represents and demonstrates everything that we who grew up in this country and have been around long enough to see a few things, this exemplifies what being an American is. If you think about all the conflicts that we've been in ever since our founding, even before our founding, the very issues, the conflicts that brought our country together, that brought people in the 13 colonies together and formed and established a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And this incident has exemplified, I think, in almost every way what it means to be an American and how we can come together and push aside all our differences in a time of calamity like this, where we're just, okay, it doesn't matter today whether I'm rich or I'm poor, or I'm black or I'm white. Today I'm an American. And that's really what we're so lacking in this country. And a lot of it is because people just no longer understand or appreciate our heritage and the traditions and and the price that was paid. I think stuff like what I'm seeing today is such an insult to those who have given their lives to defend our freedom. And we have basically a president today that just mocks that every time he opens his mouth to spew out some of that liberal garbage that he does, even when he's trying to praise our troops. I don't know about you. I'll ask you this, Joe. Have you ever listened to him when he talks about our men and women in the service? Doesn't it seem like it's almost he's got to force out what he's saying?
It's insincere. He doesn't mean a word of it. It's forced. It's totally without any emotion, anything to do with the good traditional American values. He has no emotion to it at all. I don't know if you noticed it about anything he says about it, but it's no emotion at all. But when it comes to tearing down the nation and its values, he is up on top of it. He's on his toes. He's ready to go. It's just exactly opposite of what we had in the past and what this country needs right now in its president. He's absolutely his legacy is what it is, and he's wallowing in it, and it's too bad we have to live through it.
Right. Ron, what is your take? Are you aware of what Don Lemon did on his newscast?
Yes, I saw the picture of it as well. My take on it is.
Let me ask you directly, Ron. Let me ask you directly, as a black American, and we know you're a Christian conservative, but I want to add, just as a black American, how did that hit you?
I hate to disappoint you, gentlemen, but it didn't. I was not impressed. I was not moved. Because first of all, I understood, as my dad used to say, consider the source of what someone is doing or what is happening, and I quickly considered the source and moved on. I was unimpressed, unmoved, and just looked at just another a-hole on television, grabbing more attention for himself, trying to maybe bump the ratings up for CNN. They normally have very abysmal ratings, and I guess he wanted to give them a shot in the arm or something, because surely there's no good to come out of what he was doing.
And what do you think? What do you think the intent behind it was? What do they hope to accomplish with this?
I'm not smart enough to figure them out in this. I'm sorry to be disappointing you this evening concerning that, but other than just trying to give attention and just to try to be provocative, to the ignorant masses or something. That's the only thing I can come up with. I mean, certainly there's no good motivation behind it, and maybe that's why it's a little more difficult for me to grip on it, but there's certainly nothing good, and just to provoke, just for the heck of provoking, because as you said earlier, these are the same people that will go to Nutsville, basically, if a white person were to say that word, or whatever. And so I don't get it. There's nothing positive in his motivation for doing it.
I can't see anything productive in doing it, one way or the other. I mean, if we're saying, okay, we're trying to stir the liberal base, and so we'll do it. I can't see that doing anything. Certainly it isn't going to stir anything on the left or on the right other than just disgust. But let me take a moment here, because I flashed back. I have to be honest with you. I had a major flashback when this thing took place. Back in 2008, after Barack Obama was elected, and Eric Holder came out with his favorite statement about the fact that we don't discuss racism in this country. We're cowards, and we don't discuss it. And I was just starting out on radio. I'd only been on radio a year when Obama finally took office. And the station that I was at had a black station manager, and she was as liberal as they come, and I was as conservative as they come. But she is the one that put me on the air. She is the one that dragged me to the microphone, because she said, "I don't agree with you, but I like the way you say things, and I want to." And she gave me airtime. She said, "I'm going to give you airtime so that you can." And her and I used to sit around for hours and just talk about things. But anyway, this thing came down with Eric Holder, and I came in one day and I said, "Okay, we're going to talk about race." And what I did was I did a dialogue on slang words across the board. And I said, okay, the N-word. And what I did was I said the word. I said, okay, this is what it means. I said, this is the word that everybody's down on. And I said it. I mentioned it. And I said, now this is what it means. And I gave a definition from an urban dictionary, ebonomics and ebonics and stuff like that. And I said, but let's look at some of the other words that are out there. Let's look at the word cracker. Let's look at the word redneck. Redneck is a racial term. It refers to bottom, low-life, socioeconomic white people who had rednecks from working out in the sun in the fields, just like blacks. That's where the term came from. So I'm like, okay, well, if it's derogatory to use the N-word, then isn't it just as derogatory to call a white person a redneck? Or how about, when I was growing up, they used the term gray. I don't know where that term came from, but I remember in school, that's what blacks called us, that we were grays. I don't know what that meant, and it didn't really make any difference. But we have cracker, we have honky, we have all these other things. And so I took the time to do this, and I said, I'm trying to figure out why it's okay to paint one person by the color of their skin, in this case red, but it's not okay to say it about somebody else of another color. And I was severely reprimanded when I got off the air. I mean, they jumped on me with both feet. And I said, well, I'm just trying to have this honest dialogue. And I was immediately, she said, don't ever use that word again. She goes, I had people calling into the station. It was crazy. And I said, well, but the point being is, if you're telling me in one breath you want to have this conversation, and I'm just bringing it out, let's lay it out there, and let's see, if we can come to some understanding of this. But you want to set parameters on the argument. Well, you can't have an honest dialogue if you set parameters on the argument, don't you think?
That to me exemplifies the hypocrisy of the left, whether it's the Negro Thought Police, whether it's the white liberals or whatever. Do as I say do, not as I do. And I hear in the news and in the media or read stories of blacks and others that call whites all kinds of names. And they do all kinds of things. And I see things, even stupid videos they put on Facebook. But if one white person dares to say something that goes outside of the list, that touches on one of the hallowed words, that you mustn't say ever the unforgivable words, then you, my friend, will be labeled a racist, or you'll be attacked, or whatever. And it's just more division. It just creates more. It's that division, another divisional tactic of the left. They've got the Negro Thought Police working on their behalf to be more upset over a word than their living standard, more upset over a word than the condition of their families, the economy of their cities, or whatever. And, here we have the situation today where we're all, not all of us, but there's so much division in our country. And as we agreed on earlier, over such technically over minor issues. And that's sad that when you were on like that and all you wanted to do was bring honest dialogue and they couldn't handle the truth. It's just like several years ago in Detroit, the Negro Thought Police, the NAACP, they actually got a coffin, and they put the word, I want to say it, but whatever. They put the word in the coffin and they buried it. So I did a very sarcastically driven page from the Edwards Notebook about the burying of the N-word and how all of a sudden all crime has dissipated in the black neighborhoods. The schools are now teaching truth in American history and math and sciences and all of that. And the father is welcomed back in the home.
Yeah. Okay, Ron, I've got to interrupt you. We got to do commercial. But when we come back, you mentioned something at the very beginning of the show, your segment, about Rush Limbaugh, talking about the Confederate flag. And I want to touch on that again when we come back here, because I think it's important that we really put this in its place. It's a minor, we're majoring in the minors here, but the minors are becoming the majors. I mean, it's the nature of the beast. We got to deal with it. And I wanted to point out a couple of things about this flag that everybody's making such a big hoopla over, that really, when you put everything in perspective, really kind of puts it back into the minor leagues, if I can say it that way. But we're going to go to a commercial here. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion here with Ron Edwards from the Edwards Notebook. Don't go away, guys. We'll be right back.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, we are back right here on the Conservative Syndicate. I am your host, John Matthews. I've got with me Ron Edwards from the Edwards Notebook doing his weekly segment, and of course, Joe Hakos from Dreyer Report, my co-host, partner in crime. I wanted to talk about something here real quick about the flag. I really, I think you're absolutely right, Ron, that what's happened in instances like this is that we get into this majoring in the minor deals. But if we can't knock out the minor things, we're definitely never going to be able to deal with the major things. And one of the things that I went about today doing was kind of grabbing a little bit of background on the Confederate flag. And one of the first things that I discovered about it was this flag that everybody seems to think was the flag of the Confederacy was not actually the flag of Confederacy. It was actually a battle flag. And from what I understand, they had 4 different versions of this flag. And the versions, the layout of the flags and the size of the flags was used on the battlefield to identify the size of a regiment or a division or this, that, and the other. So it was not the flag that we see today as the Confederate flag was actually Robert E. Lee's flag. It was like when you saw that flag, you knew Lee was around. That was what it was about. And didn't really become representative of anything until after the Civil War was over, and it became a symbol of that was used mostly to identify the fact that you fought for the South. That was it. They used it primarily up until 1948 to honor people that had died in the Civil War, at memorial events and things like that. One of the things that's interesting about this, and I think Limbaugh had touched on it the other day, is the fact that the flag became the symbol of the segregationalist Dixiecrat Party in 1948 that had people in it like none other than Strom Thurmond, people like this, people that the Democrats today hold up on a pedestal as being the icons of what the Democrat Party represents. And it turns out that that's not the case. These people like Strom Thurmond were segregationalists. And coincidentally enough, Strom Thurmond was what? He was the governor of South Carolina when his flag was chosen to represent the Dixiecrat Party, which was they wanted to keep segregation. They endorsed or they condoned white supremacy. And they didn't want the blacks to have the right to vote and all these other issues that today are being tagged on the Tea Party. And I think it's really important that we understand that this did not rise up from the conservative movement. It's just so, but we go back to that same thing. People are just too damn stupid to know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And but we have to continue to make the noise out there, and hopefully that enough of them will grip onto this, the truth of the matter concerning the flag and all of that, and we can finally put this subject to rest so that we can move on to bigger and better things. But I just have to agree with you. I mean, that's the truth of the matter, and that's what it is.
Well, I don't know if we're ever going to get through this. It's going to be another year and a half before we can get beyond this, because they're going to keep throwing us out, and it's nothing more to divide and distract, and that's what it really is. It's not. It's nothing more than that. I mean, we could get beyond a lot of this BS, and I call it BS because it's exactly what it is. A lot of this, it's just, and as far as historically, what they've done is, come on. I mean, you don't have to go very deep into history to find this. It's now you got to go through get the Dead Sea Scrolls or something. You don't have to dig very far to find this stuff out. It's right there. All you have to do is try a little bit.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I one of the things that in a matter of 15 minutes, I pulled up this information, looked at it, and realized, this is just the problem that we have is that people just don't take the time to take 15 minutes to look it up. All I did was I typed in my search engine, Confederate flag. Okay, let's see what comes up. And right away, I get all this stuff out there about where it came from, what its intent was, what it was used for. And by the way, I found some other stuff. For instance, in 1992, Bill Clinton and Al Gore's campaign pins had the Confederate flag on them. And they were calling themselves the New Sons of the South. And they were dressed in Confederate outfits on these pins. And so I'm thinking, okay, my point here, the reason I'm kind of just rambling about this stuff is there is a method to my madness here. We're coming up, Joe hit the nail on the head here. We've got a year and a half left of this conquer and divide strategy because it worked for Obama, and it's the only hope they have for Clinton. And that is to be able to continue to divide, to pit men against women, homosexuals against heterosexuals, blacks against whites, or anybody else out there that's not quote-unquote white, the rich against the poor. It's going to be a continuing thing, and they have to amp it up now because they don't have the first black president anymore. Now it's going to be the first woman president, but the attack is going to be the same. It's going to be divide, get everybody upset, and it's not to get people to the polls. It's to get people to stay away from the polls.
Stay away. Exactly. Stay away.
Right. We had Harold Hervey on here yesterday from the Conservative Party USA, and now he was telling us right off the top. I said, "What's the biggest problem you have?" The biggest problem is conservatives don't vote. You know, they stay home because they're fed up with this stuff, and that's the whole design of the campaign. It's like if we can get enough people to stay home, we've only got to get a few fools and whatever people we can pull up from the dead rolls out there that can cast, absentee ballots, and we can still pull this thing off. And that's the whole intent of this thing. That's why we have to pay attention to the minor things, because the minor things are the strategy. Most of us look at this and we go, what a bunch of crap. What a bunch of crap, So, anyway.
Well, don't forget the illegal aliens, too.
I'm sorry, Ron, I'll give you the last word here. We're almost out of time, but I'll give you the last word.
I was going to say, don't forget the illegal aliens. They want to put on the voter rolls, too, so to bolster their chances.
Yeah. Okay, we are out of time, Ron. I want to give you time to plug all the activity that you're doing, your website, anything that you got going on out there. What's happening?
Well, the website, you can reach me there and to view my archives of the Edwards Notebook commentary as well as my columns, which are also viewed in News with Views. The website is dronedwards.com. Also, you can catch me on 34 radio stations around the country and also right here on the Conservative Syndicate. And it's an honor to be with you guys. And once again, great show.
All right, my friend. I appreciate it. God bless you. We'll be in touch, and we'll be talking to you during the week.
All right. Take care.
All right. God bless you. Okay, guys. We're going to wrap it up for today. Tomorrow, we have Bob Cardoza in the second hour. I don't know what we're going to do for the first hour. What do you think we should do tomorrow, Joe?
Oh, why don't we party like it's 1999?
Oh, maybe party like it's 1899.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Well, we'll do something here. I want to. It's a valid point that we don't want to spend too much time on the minor stuff, but it is important that we understand those are the elements that are being used, and they're being effective. If it wasn't effective, we could just blow this thing off.
Yeah.
But they're being effective with what they're doing, because the majority of Americans are just kind of throwing their hands up and going, "Oh my God, not again."
Yeah, exactly.
Have you been hearing that?
Well, I can understand why. I mean, we've got a Congress that, you've got 70 calls against and 1 call for to stop this trade authority and give the executive branch more power. And what does Congress do? They said, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We'll go ahead and give it to and pass that thing again."
Yeah,
so,
maybe that's what we need to talk about tomorrow. Mitch McConnell's press conference on the trade agreement.
Oh, gee. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll get some Cheese Whiz and I'll spray it all over the room.
Yeah, we'll talk about that to some degree. I don't know how much time it will take to, once again, just point out we've got an idiot at the podium. But
yeah, we got a guy that's a Republican, but he's definitely not for the American people.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with our government right now. It's not for the people. Right. It's against the people.
All right, folks. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock out here on the West Coast, 8 o'clock on the East Coast. You can visit our site, theconservativesyndicate.net. Pick up this show, any of the other shows out there. You want to hear us on iTunes? Hey, click on the link on our website, and it'll take you there. Theconservativesyndicate.net. And we'll be back tomorrow with more good stuff. And for your listening pleasure, for your education, information, and, of course, engagement. So have a good night, folks. We will talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks
for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.